What's going on, everyone? Interesting week this week. Definitely something a bit different. Spent a bit of time at work. Been away for probably about 10 days, so had a bit less time at home. When we did get home, decided we'd go out camping. So been nice to get away. Anyway, this week been mucking around. We did a bit of work on the computer, so we've got a Keypad designed up for Jimmy's car, and even a bit of a bonus thing, did some work on a diffuser design for Myles's sports sedan. So we'll roll on with the video, and yeah, hope you guys enjoy. Let us know what you think of the different kind of content. What's happening, everyone? So this week I'm actually going to be going away out to work for a little bit longer than expected, so not going to get a whole lot done on the cars, but just trying to make a bit of a plan of attack for a few things that I might be able to do while I'm away. One of them is, now that we've got the dash kind of in situ where it's going to be, is I want to start making a mount for our switch pad and start button. I was looking at putting them just straight onto the dash, but with the angle and where I want to put them, because I want to put them over kind of here, I want to have a bit of a kick on them back towards the driver. So I just took a bit of a measurement before from that corner here. I want it basically against it. This side here is going to have a little bit of just a 10mm kick up, and then that there's going to then translate into a 35mm off from the back here. So plan is maybe try and draw something up that then I could 3D print. So I think that'll be the plan for probably this week, is maybe try and get that 3D printed or drawn up so I can get a mate to 3D print it for us. Then I'm not too sure where we're at with Jimmy, what's going on, but we might have a little bit of a break. So I've got a bit going on with the 34. All of our radium gear has been turning up. I've got one last bit to pick up from Ample. I've also got, we drilled out the rear rotors the other day when I picked up Jimmy's car. I thought I'd take the time and drill out the rotors while I had the mill nearby, because that's down at Phoenix with the rest of my gear. So spent a bit of time down there, got that done, but I'm kind of in two minds. The brakes, all the Nissan stuff runs metric, so that's a M10 fitting, whereas these lines that are already on here are 3/8 Imperial. So I either need to make a new brake line, or I could make like a little adapter, or I'm tossing up whether I just get some of these new, this line here, I just make some of them up with a 10mm. That's probably going to be the easiest, just making a new brake line up. But I've also wanted to redo these brake lines for a while, because I think, I'm not too sure, but I think I get a bit of air in the rear system at times. Sometimes it goes a little bit squishy, like if it's been sitting for a couple of weeks, the pedal goes a bit squishy, and it always seems to be the rear master that has to take up. But in saying that, the line also runs uphill. So I've heard that if the line runs uphill, it can then bleed back, like siphon back into the reservoir. So going to be very hard to change it. I do have a residual pressure fitting in there, which is meant to hold like 2 psi or 5 psi in the rear brake line, which should stop that, but yeah, I'm not too sure. I think I might just get some new soft lines made up just as a temporary fix. We've got plenty going on already with still trying to get all the ride height sensors wired up, trying to get the fuel cell now mounted in. That's going to be a pretty big job. That'll probably be back again once down at Phoenix. So yeah, like I said, I think now we'll draw up this 3D mount, get that 3D printed so that we can mount that up and go from there. Pulsar wise, I think once we've got the motor back, we can put that in. The interior is probably not too far off being pulled apart and painted. So that'll be kind of a cool milestone if we can strip everything back out. Wiring, fuel lines, brake lines, everything, strip it out, paint the interior. That'll be a pretty cool time. So, with that said, I'm going to go back up for work. I'll be away for 2 weeks this time, so see what happens. Might be a bit light on for this next fortnight. So anyway, I hope the rest goes well. Cheers, bye. Alright, so we are gonna muck around and do Jimmy's 3D design for the keypad holder. So I've done most of the design here. As you can see, changed it around from what I was planning. I was initially planning on having this start button off to the side and then the pull cable for the wire system off on this side, but when I started doing the drawing, it just didn't quite flow. This felt like it kind of flowed pretty nicely. So we've done our original sketch. We go in here, we've got all of our dimensions, most of it. You could see on that piece of paper that I'd started mucking around on. So from there, we'll go through and just do an extrude. So we've got the start of the body happening. From there, we've just made this pocket. So that pocket there, the idea of that was so that we can recess the keypad down a little bit. Obviously, this is already going to be sitting off the dash a bit, so if we can recess it down, that'll be nice. Done another sketch here. I'll hide the first one. So off to the side, I've just done this just so we can take a bit of meat out of here. You'll see in a sec when we go through. We've done that drawing, punch and extrude through, and now we're just getting a nice bit of depth to it. We've got a bit of a chamfer on it, nothing major, but in this next step, we just chuck a bit of a radius on. I think this just tidies it up quite nicely. So put a bit of a radius on around the keypad here, flow it all in. Just starting to look nice. All right, next up. All right, so where I was talking about, we had zero. Sorry, I think it was 0 to 10 to 35. The way I've done that on this is I've done these 3 little points. Now, each individual extrude. Now, this one was meant to be 0. I've had to do it 10 just so we had some height. That meant that that one there I ended up doing, I think it was 20 mil. And then this one here ended up being 45. So we just brought all of those heights off that extra 10 mil. And that gives me that kind of cross plane that I was trying to get before. This is the only way I could really work out how to do it. From there, made 3 points. So when you want to make a construction plane in Fusion, you can do it many different ways. You can do it offset from a face, tangent to a corner, bits and pieces like that. So I've just done a plane through 3 points here, but it meant that I had to create points at the vertex. So once I'd done that, then I went through and put that construction plane in. So that now is at the angle that I want this keypad to sit. Another extrude, just a simple one straight off the back. And I've just done that so that I had thickness through where we want to put that cut.
Um, Now, shell. I did this. This was something I did a bit later on, but had to rewind. So shelled it because I'm going to 3D print it. We didn't need it solid the whole way. Just would have been extra weight, extra material that we just don't need. So this sketch here, I've done this sketch to see if I can do it to the construction plane. No, it's not going to let me. And I've just made it oversized. The only reason I've made it oversized, you'll see in a sec, is so that when I do the next extrude, I was able to do that extrude as a cut. So now we've actually sliced the whole model at the height that we want at the angle that we want it to sit at. So you can see we've got practically nothing here to your 10 mil to your 35 mil. So next step along, this is where I start kind of thinking about making a bit of a flange for it. So we started that flange up, extrude it, join it, and now we've got, just turn that construction plane off. Now we've got something that's starting to look like a flange that we could actually mount. So I did make it rather thick, 10 mil. Main reason for that is being 3D print, you're going to have a wall thickness, a bit in the middle, so it should make that nice and strong. Once again, make it look all shiny, make it look all nice, put some radius on. That also helps with, in racing from what I've seen, is helping with like stress points. So everything that I've made, if I've made it with a corner, it's always started the crack from the corner. So with a radius like that, the idea is that it should stop it cracking. Now this sketch here, that one there was so that I could get um, these level, because obviously as you can see that's cut at an angle, but all that stuff there is going to be mounted on this front face. So the whole idea, go back to the other side again, see if I can get it in a good angle. With those drawings there, we're then able to go through, get out of the sketch. We're able to go through and do two extrudes. So the first one, we just cut that all the way down. Second one, we've done the same thing, but now we've just done it on the fire pull. I haven't cut that one all the way down to the bottom. I think it was about 10 mil on that. Yep, so another 10 mil. So all that's doing is that's just giving the ability for a bit of extra support so that pull cord won't wobble. If it does get pulled, it does have that strength there. There is like a jam nut on the back side, so just wanted as much support for that as possible. Once again, coming back through with some radiuses. So that's just tidied up around here and around that, just giving it a little bit more meat. Yeah. And another construction plane. Now that was an offset to this face here. Now the reason I've done that, you'll see in a sec, is it's for my bolt holes, for my mounting. But I've had to raise it up so that now we'll go into the sketch. So all these little points here are what I'm planning on using for the bolt holes, but I've had to raise them up so that when we do the hole function, because I wanted to have this, get rid of the sketch, because I wanted to have this here scalloped in for the bolts, it meant that I had to raise that offset plane up a bit higher, but all in all, it actually worked out pretty well. This one here is going to be a little bit tricky to get in, just seeing how it comes in, but I figure that we'll be able to get a bolt in and turned, and then we'll get it done up. My plan is to use cap heads there, so that shouldn't be a drama. The next sketch, that was actually now starting to just map out some of the geometry for the two mounting holes for the keypad. And then this large one here, that's just for the cable to run through. So we punch those holes in with that hole function again. And I didn't do a hole function for this one, I just did an extrude. That extrude just cut straight through. I could have done the same, I could have done a hole function or an extrude for these. No real reason why I didn't. Another radius, I've done that on the back side here. I probably could make it just a little bit bigger, but the idea of that is where the cable comes through. I just didn't want it getting caught up on the edge. Nothing overly critical, but just a bit of a nice to have. Last little thing, Fusion, I like the function now. You can insert fasteners. So I'll just jump in here quickly and you can have a look. There's all sorts of different bits and pieces in here. The other one I really like is the master car, but I'll show you that in future. So you can look up your screws. So say we want a cap edge screw, we can just go select that and then it's actually put them all in there. So just for mock-up purposes, it's been nice and handy because you can get all your details on them. So I've just kind of put I think they were M6. Where do I find that? Yeah. So M6 by 1, and that's going to give you all your dimensions for your head. So it meant that I knew that I've got enough clearance around the head. I didn't at first. Once I put them in, then I realized I was able to go back into the hole function. The hole function on this is pretty handy because you can do a counterboard hole, which is what we've done here. So that just gives you a bit of room, a bit of clearance for the head. So yeah, that there is Jimmy's keypad mocked up. So hopefully I'll get that 3D printed in the next few days, and that might be ready for when I'm back home. So anyway, you'll hopefully see it next, not on the computer, but in my hands. So cheers, everyone.
So, editing up Jimmy's video. I'm pretty actually stoked with how it's gone down. What I'm going to do is I'll give you a bit of a sneak peek of another job that we're doing. Myles hit us up for designing a diffuser for his sports sedan. So I'll run you through what we've done there. We're actually sending that out to get profile cut locally in Mount Barker. So working with a company there to get that done. So that should be cool. Yeah, with these going the way they're going, I'm pretty happy. I probably will change how I originally did the CAD design for the Skyline front end. But I think that means now I'll have a better way of doing it and something I'll be happy with, something that's a bit more watchable. So, yeah, cheers.
All right. Miles's diffuser. So we'll kind of do like I did before. I've done most of the design. You can see down here on the bottom. But we'll start rolling through. First kind of thing that I've done. This is one of the bits where, like I said, I'm not going to give you too many details, but we've kind of just got a bit of a general shape. There was some design criteria for heights. So obviously we've got our overall length. That's determined by regulations, how the car was sitting, all of that. Same with our height. At the back, we're allowed, I believe, it's about 200 mil from axle center height up on the sports sedans. Don't take my word for that, but I think it was around that. either way, this dimension is what we required. And then here, we've just got a few gentle steps um, overall to what we kind of were wanting as our exit angle. So nice kind of slow laid in, ramping to a fairly kind of aggressive exit. So I won't go into that sketch, but next step was we actually made a body. So just a solid body, which meant that we could kind of get a bit of a feel for how it was going to look. But the nice part about that is I could then round it. So what that does is when we get back to our side view, you can see we're fairly close to where we needed to be for our critical measurement here. That's clearance for around the diff. The rest of it, we're just smoothed out kind of those angles that we had, but we're still meeting our requirement for our height and our overall length. So that was kind of cool. We got into that. From there, I've just added tabs. So the idea of these, you'll see these kind of in the future. We've projected the overall geometry from the body that we'd rounded. So now with that rounded body, we've got this profile here, which we could go and get laser cut. That's what the end product's going to be here. I've got some tabs on. Idea of that is just to make it easier to weld, easy to align, all of that kind of jazz. From there, what we're going to do, we'll go to a kind of top view, is we've got our overall width that we want the top to be, or the exit, which is a maximum width determined by sports sedans is between the width between your back tyres. But we've just tapered it in just a bit where it's going to come over the diff, meet up with the floors, all of that kind of jazz. So it's just a bit of extra clearance on the tyres, give it a bit of angle. Should all mean that here we're tight to the tyre width. If we did that through here, we'd have rubbing. So just that little bit of a wedge shape means that we've got that clearance on the tyre. If Myles ends up changing toe or tyre diameters or offsets or anything like that, he's got some room to move. So that there was a cut profile. Go through to that and go back to the top. Now you can see it's just taking that away. So that has been chopped out. The reason I did this was we'll get to the next step. We've made then another construction plane that is on that taper. So if you can imagine when we're looking at it, that's our nominal length that Myles has given us. As soon as you bring that in, that is going to grow, so that length is a bit longer. So with that wedge, the reason I've made that construction plane there is so that we could do another projection, and that there is now going to be projected of our taper. So it'll all kind of come into it in a minute. Once we then had that, I've converted this drawing over to a sheet metal design so that we're able to make our own flat patterns that we could then send off for profile cutting. I'll draw these sketches on. What's not showing up here? Let's go into here. No sketches on. We don't want our body. Flat pattern. It's not happy. Give me 2 secs, guys. Alright, I worked out my mistake. Alright, I was getting ahead of myself. So what we've done, once I created this flat pattern, I then projected this sketch off of the original body that we had. So that body had that flat panel. So I've just done a sketch off of that, because what we're then able to do is I'm going to make this body. And from there, the way that you can go with sheet metal on Fusion is you can make, oh, we're not in the sheet metal, here we go. We can make flanges. And so that's actually what I've done here, is I've ended up making 100mm long flanges, and then I've just made them to mimic the angle of the body. So technically it's not an overly smooth, it's going to have notches on here. What we'll do in real life is we won't worry about these bends, and we'll just make this a nice long roll. I'm sure there's probably a way you could do it, but to be honest with you, I didn't work it out. So make all of them. I did put just a 20mm return on the end here. That's just a bit of a stiffener. It'll probably get rounded over, cleaned up and that, but should be all good. Then this here, that was actually just going back through, because we had to make this square to begin with. Just going back through and just cutting that wedge back into it. So you can see, and that's just been a cut profile through all of it, just to take out that wedge. Then we got to the fun part. So then I started making more sketches to create the end plates. Now, because I'd already done the end plates and the straight profiles, I was just able to go through and project. So I did make that fairly simple, just to make a quick little end plate. We made a second one, that's the straight one. Moved that into position. So now you can see where those tabs were coming into it. So these tabs are actually sitting in here. At the moment, not great because there's no holes in it, but we're starting to get something that's going to resemble a diffuser. Go through, we've made a mirror of that original end plate, so that way then we could fill the other end in. Another center straight one, just kind of shuffling things around a little bit, make sure we've got all of our gaps nice and tidy. We've got everything kind of where we wanted, our overall widths and that. Last body that we were to create, then we started getting into more sketches. Now this here, the way I've done it, I don't know if there is an easier way, but because each of these are on different planes, I've had to make a new sketch each time to remove them. So we'll go through, I'll just close those ones. You can see each time I've done it, what we do is we've just been doing a projection, cutting out that little hole for the tab. Can't really see a whole lot going on, but once I get to the end of it, if I make the middle go away, there's actually a hole here. So what the idea is that then when I get this all profile cut out, that'll just slot straight in there, and we'll have nice tight gaps. We'll be able to weld up around them, and it means that we can have a nice smooth underside on the diffuser. No welds, no interruptions, no nothing like that. All the welds will be done on the upside here. So, like I said, I'm sure there's probably easier ways of doing things, but this has kind of worked out for me, knowing that on that original sketch we had our critical dimensions. That made that pretty easy. So hopefully, once we get this one made, we can get it profile cut, and weld it up, and get it on Miles's car. Hopefully, he might even do a video of welding it up and installing it, but I know he's on a bit of a crunch, so yeah. Anyway, cheers for watching.
2 CAD videos edited up in the outback. Something a bit different, but that's what you got to do when you don't get hands-on time with the car. Let us know what you guys have thought. The first video, when I did it, there was the clicking that did my head in, but we'll I think you sorted that for the second video. Let us know what you all think. Something different. Trying to do what I can, keep these videos coming out for you, and so you can kind of see what goes on in the background. So let us know in the comments if you liked it, like, subscribe, all the usual stuff. So cheers everyone, we'll see you in a fortnight.